Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics are looking for a 7th win. They've won 4 in a row and just took down the NBA's only left unbeaten team on Thursday night in the Milwaukee Bucks. But of course, the Indiana Pacers are off to their best start since 2013, and they're looking for a 7th win as well. Victor Oladipo, well, I can tell, Derek, by your face, that you're not used to seeing him pull his shorts so high.
Yeah, no.
I wish the camera would have come to us sooner. Hey, everybody. Welcome into our NBA TV studios. This is the Auto Trader pregame show, taking you to tip-off between the Celtics and Pacers. I'm Kristen Ledlow, alongside Derek Fisher, Brennan Haywood, and we are wrapping up week 3 of the season, guys, already.
Derek, you ain't like Victor's shorts? You ain't like
no,
I was trying to move on from that. I was trying to move on,
I just
Victor.
couldn't tell what was going on. If they were cut that short or they were tucked
he rolled
in
him up. Like, you know, his
to the compression shorts.
his thighs was warm, so he wanted to cool them off.
Okay.
You know what? I was trying to move on, Victor. I want that on the record. I was trying to move on. Well, tonight we're going to be with you guys until tip-off between the Celtics and Pacers. These are 2 of the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference, at least through these first 3 weeks. The Toronto Raptors lead the way at 8-1, with the Milwaukee Bucks behind them at 7-1. Their first loss was earlier this week against the Celtics. So for more on the Celtics' start to the season, we welcome in Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe. Now, Gary, I was in Boston Thursday for the Celtics win over the Bucks. I asked Kyrie Irving if the change in his game has been as simple as a haircut and a challenge from Tommy Heinsohn. What, though, has made the difference for Kyrie this week?
Shots are just going in. I mean, he took a lot of those shots in the first few games of the season. They just didn't go down. And he was really having trouble finishing. I just think he was really rusty. I mean, they didn't play a whole lot of minutes in the preseason. So he got into the regular season. He tried to be old Kyrie, and it just wasn't the same. So now some of those shots are going down. And he's also getting more confidence with his 3-ball. Obviously, his 3-ball is so important for the Celtics because it opens up the floor for everybody else because you're so, wary of him driving to the basket and finishing. So when he can hit the 3, it opens up the floor. He can get to the basket, also make things easier for his teammates.
Hey, how you doing? This is Brendan Haywood here. I got a quick question for you. Now, with Kyrie Irving, you talked about just making shots, but could it also be some of that coming down to the fact that he's trying to get his rhythm back, coming back from the injury and getting acclimated back into the lineup with so many new players?
Yeah, I mean, this was going to be a process. And also, Brendan, there's nights where he doesn't need to score. Like when they won at Detroit, Detroit was undefeated entering the game. They knocked them off. They beat them pretty good by 20. Kyrie scored 3 points that night, and they scored 109. So there are going to be nights that Kyrie does not need to be Cleveland Kyrie, early Cleveland Kyrie, or NBA Finals Kyrie. There's nights he just needs to have 10 points and 8 assists and a couple of rebounds, and they'll win. And I think he's realized that he enjoys not having all the pressure on him to score, and I think that's important for him. But this team has so much offensive firepower that they don't need him. So tonight will be a night that they probably do need him against Victor Oladipo. But I think he's kind of getting used to a different role.
Gary, hi, Derek Fisher. Speaking of having so many guys that can get it done, Gordon Hayward, for example, coming back this season, starting 7 out of 8 games. Where does everybody feel with his progress, where he is at this early point in the season?
I think, Derek, they're ecstatic with the way he's adjusting. I think everyone knew. You saw in the preseason, okay, he's not the same player that was the all-star in Utah. It's going to take a while. He had 18 points in the last game against the Bucks. I mean, he is starting to get comfortable because obviously he's got to get comfortable mentally as well as physically. He's got to get used to the contact again, driving to the basket, getting in basketball shape, premium basketball shape, not just 5-on-5s in September, but really great basketball shape. So he's taking his time in getting to that, and the team understands it's going to take a while, but I think that they'd be more than impressed, more than ecstatic with the steps he's made, especially over the last week.
And the team as a whole set a franchise record for 3-pointers made in a game on Thursday. They actually set the record through 3 quarters. Apart from simply just hitting shots, what has started working so well offensively for this team?
They like to take threes, and Brad Stevens stresses, if you have an open 3, take it. So you got Aaron Baines taking threes. That's how the NBA has changed. This is not, your big brother's NBA anymore. I mean, against the Bucks, John Henson and Aaron Baines hit a 3-pointer within 90 seconds of each other. It shows you how much this game has changed. And so if Baines has the green light, obviously so does Kyrie Irving, Hayward. It's just a different game. So if they have an open 3, The floor is spaced. They're going to take it. And they just happen to go down against the Bucks.
Well, you guys can follow Gary's work in the Boston Globe or on Twitter at @GWashburnGlobe. Thanks again, Gary, for taking the time before a game.
Thank you.
So, guys, the obvious answer is they just start hitting shots, but they did take down the only unbeaten team, not just in the Eastern Conference, but in the league as well. Do you see tonight against the Pacers as another measuring stick for the Celtics team?
In some ways, and I think as much as we're talking about offense, spacing, and threes, a test for the Celtics defensively. That's really where they hung their hat last season. I thought that's how they got separation with 16 games in a row. And I thought against Milwaukee, I think showing defensively how you make it difficult for the Bucks to score, at least the way they're playing so far early in this season, the Celtics were really locked in defensively and were able to get that win.
I don't really think that this is a measuring stick type of game, but I think this is just another game for the Celtics to try to get their continuity going. When you watch them early on offensively, they didn't have continuity. Kyrie was trying to get his going. Everybody was trying to get going. Tatum was stopping the ball a lot, and the offense looked choppy. Right now, they're just working to iron the kinks out because this is a very talented ball club, but talented teams have to come together and understand when is it my turn to shoot, your turn to shoot, and how we're going to run our offense. So I think right now they're not worried about making statements or who they're playing. They're worried about how can we become the best version of the Boston Celtics.
Then do you think that it's too early for any game really to be considered a measuring stick?
Oh, for sure. And when we talk about games in October and November, it's way too early to be like,
we made November now.
It's way too early to be like, man, we made a statement. Like, because those games are totally different when you're talking about games later on in the season or when you're talking about in the playoffs. Like, I've never had a playoff game and thought to myself, man, they really whooped us in November. Like, nah, that's not it. I didn't think about that at all. You might think about the season series, but one game in November isn't going to change your mental outlook of a team when you get later on in the season.
Okay, but could a haircut change things for the way that one particular player is playing?
You think so?
I mean, come on. Pre-haircut Kyrie and post-haircut Kyrie.
He's like reverse Samson.
Two different Kyries. Reverse Samson. That's exactly what I was thinking.
I mean, that's what the numbers tell us.
Right. But it's not just about this haircut. It is, of course, a challenge from Tommy Heinsohn to get back in better shape. It is, like you said, Brendan, the ability to regain confidence after an injury as well.
We saw this with Kyrie Irving in Cleveland. He had the broken kneecap, and he came back from it. And when he first got on the court for Cleveland a couple of seasons ago, he wasn't the Kyrie we were used to seeing because he had to get back into his rhythm. He had to get back into shape, and he had to understand how we fit in within the offense. We're seeing the same thing here. Started the season out a little bit slow, but we know who Kyrie is. We've seen Kyrie in the NBA Finals. We know what he does. He'll be just fine. He just had to work out the kinks and get back into shape and knock some of that rust off.
Yeah, and when you combine that, again, with the number of players that they are all reacclimating to, Gordon Hayward is back. Kyrie Irving is back. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They have a number of guys that are all kind of figuring out how we're going to be the best versions of ourselves this season. You have to throw Kyrie into that mix as well, on top of coming back from the knee injury.
And you said Gordon Hayward is back. He went through not only, though, a physical rehabilitation, but a mental one as well. It's not an easy thing to regain your confidence after having gone through what he went through. What does that take?
Well, I only know from a fractured navicular bone in my right foot where I was out for 6 months. Not as severe, I think, of a lower leg extremity injury as Gordon. But yes, questioning of your physical abilities, but also mentally. I think it brings things into perspective in ways that as an athlete, sometimes you think that you're invincible, you know, you're not going to ever be without the game, and all of a sudden something happens and you're without the game. So Gordon appears to be even mentally, you know, stronger and built with more depth than he was prior to. He's spoken of his family, the support he's gotten from his wife, being really, and the way she pushed him, you know, to get out of his comfort zone and maybe feeling sorry for himself and really making sure he got back to his best self.
Do you think, Brendan, that because of the play we've seen from Gordon lately, it says that he's back at full strength, that he has regained that confidence?
I think it takes time. I think that he's slowly but surely getting back to full strength. He's slowly but surely getting his confidence back. I had a broken navicular bone as well, and we can both probably speak to this. When you're going through the rehab process and when you're trying to get back, when you first get back on the court, things you used to do instinctually, you have to think about. And that shakes you as a player. You don't say it to anybody, but you start thinking to yourself, man, I used to be able to get that rebound really quickly. like I noticed I used to fall down a lot when I used to first come back because my balance was off, my equilibrium wasn't off. So when you have those type of situations, doubt starts to creep in. I'm sure that happened for Gordon Hayward a little bit, and now he's starting to slowly but surely work his way back. It took me a couple of months on the court to get back to where mentally I was like, okay, I am who I need to be. And I think that's what we're going to see from Gordon Hayward. The good thing is they don't need him to be Utah Gordon Hayward. They have enough talent to ease him back in. And by the time we look at Gordon Hayward in December and January, I think we'll see a guy that's playing very confident basketball.
Well, your Auto Trader pregame show continues after this break. We are with you until tip-off between the Celtics and the Pacers. We'll talk about the Pacers side of this thing coming up next.